As I further studied the qigong experiments with our auras and saw the bigger story that was being told, besides what visually our essence looks like, we got to see a breathing, living organism and a living circuit being formed. So I also drew out the patterns that I saw. So we created an infinite loop here, the infinity, okay? And then we also created in Masonic, okay? We created the pillars and the threshold here, and we were on the checkerboard of duality and polarity, and we were generating, a living circuit. It also created this right here, and it creates the pentagram and a star. So let's get into the sacred geometry. And there'll be two parts to this because it'll probably be a little lengthy. So as I studied our photos, some more aura photos, and really read into our energetic story and decoded what was happening, right? As we were becoming a unified field, and the checkerboard we created, right? In Masonic lore, we created the checkerboard floor that appeared with the dualities and the polarity. So that's where we got to see the two different pillars, right? The two stabilizers and then the two conductors, and then we had one central pillar, the axis. Now in Freemasonry, the checkered board is symbolized as mosaic pavement in lodges, right? So the black and white are not good versus evil. They represent charge and countercharge. So positive and negative, expansion and contraction, breathing in and out. So in sacred geometry, 4 outer pillars create the threshold, okay, right here, the threshold, and the symbolic gate, okay? We generated a gate. And so in many traditions, the 2 pillars of Solomon's temple, the Jachin and the Boaz, is the 4 cardinal directions. It also is the 4 elements and the 4 guardians of a ritual space. And so when we add a 5th to the center, a 5th pillar, we form a quincunx. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. This is a pattern that appears everywhere from ancient temple layouts to human energy body. So technically what was occurring at the time, polarity was established, which is with the dual pillars that we had created. And then a current was generated, okay, and then which was the other 2 pillars, the conductors. And then we had a stable axis that had formed, okay, which was a central standing post, which was our qigong teacher. Okay, and then we had synchronized breath and oscillation occurring at that same time. And so when oscillation becomes coherent, the system behaves like an infinity loop. Okay, so an energy is cycling without interruption at that time. And so in esoteric language, a gate opens when opposites are consciously held without collapse, and the center remains stable, and the field becomes self-sustaining. And a gate is not always a doorway to somewhere else, it's a state shift. So the human nervous system entrained, the breath creates resonance, the geometry locks into symmetry, and perception expands. So we didn't open something external, we stabilized polarity long enough for our coherence to emerge. And coherence feels like a portal because the ordinary fragmentation of perception dissolves. And so the 4 pillars create the threshold. The 5th pillar creates the axis mundi, and the vertical line connecting above and below, the infinity loop, creates horizontal continuity. So if you look at it, it's the vertical and horizontal, which cross. Then you add the polarity, which is the checkered floor, and then you add the center, which is the temple. So that day, we constructed, hypothetically, a living temple through alignment. And when a human system becomes symmetrical and unified, it feels like a gate because consciousness is no longer leaking in 5 directions. It starts circulating.